That way it's available for others when we record. So, peace. What do we mean by peace, and how do we access it, and how do we be peace? I wanted to read a couple of things from one of my favorite authors and teachers that I'm sure you're familiar with, I think at this point, Thich Nhat Hanh, who is very elderly now, Vietnamese monk, Zen master, who brought his teachings to the West when he could no longer stay in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and has established monasteries in many parts of the world where people practice what he teaches. And currently he's actually in Vietnam and living in the original monastery where he was ordained back in whatever that was, it may have been the 50s, I'm not sure. And he had a stroke a number of years ago, but he still, his people, his disciples, his people who are around him still, are with him and report that his presence continues to transmit the things that he would teach, very eloquently when he was able to speak in a normal way. So a lot of his emphasis was on peace. He was active in trying to bring peace to Vietnam by his the Buddhist monks didn't take a side. They tried to just help people navigate a raging war that was going on. And as I said, he teaches many things, teaches us how to deal with difficult emotions. And so I wanted to read this one that illustrates, I think, a quality of the consciousness that we mean when we talk about peace. It came from a book that I just happened to take off the shelf to when I was looking at this. Is that backwards on? Yeah, it's because of the way the mirror is. Peace is every step, the path of mindfulness in everyday life. And so he says, standing quietly by the fence, you smile your wondrous smile. I am speechless, and my senses are filled by the sound of your beautiful song. Beginningless and endless, I bow deeply to you. That's interesting. There's a note that was written in the book that says he wrote this to a flower. He was standing looking at a flower, and this is what came to him to say. So when I read that and then I think of that, it's a very beautiful poem. And I think, how often do I stop and enter that degree of silence, that degree of peacefulness inside, where I genuinely look at a flower and could say, you smile your wondrous smile. I am speechless and my senses are filled. It's lovely to be in a state of mind, a state of heart, a state of senses where you just open yourself to the present moment in such a way that a flower could be the source of a beautiful song, that you actually hear the beautiful song of a flower, which obviously isn't singing in a sound way that we ordinarily would think of it. So that's one aspect of peace, that the kind of stillness that allows all of our senses, all of our energy really to be open to what it is that we're looking at. And you could imagine being in that state of peace with another person, or any tree, or a mountain, or a river. Here's another one that in which he is bringing that quality of peaceful consciousness, of clear consciousness, to an emotion that's rising up. And we've talked about this before, how we deal with the difficult emotions like anger when they arise, because they do. He says, breathing in, I know that anger is here. Breathing in, I know that anger is here. Breathing out, I know that the anger is me. Breathing in, I know that anger is unpleasant. I like the way he says that. I know that anger is unpleasant. Breathing out, I know this feeling will pass. Breathing in, I am calm. Breathing out, I am strong enough to take care of this anger. So again, he doesn't shy away from the reality, with complete acknowledgement that anger rises up in him, even at this stage in his life. As the Dalai Lama also has said, anger happens, anger comes up. But it's how he relates to it. It's that beautiful way of attention. It's here. And even recognizing that for a moment, he's identified with it. It's me, for a moment. And then another breath, and he recognizes the anger is unpleasant. Tells us something. Do we want to hold on to it? Why would you want to hold on to something that's so unpleasant? And I know that it will pass. I know that it will pass. And that's the great lesson that that we all learn about our emotions eventually, is that they pass. They, like waves, they rise, we experience them, we might even be them for a bit, and then if we're conscious, if we're mindful, that we realize that they'll pass, and they do. And then I know I'm calm, and I know that I'm strong enough to take care of this anger when it comes again, perhaps, whenever it comes. So in our focus of bringing mindfulness and other spiritual practices, whatever spiritual practice you have or that you're learning or working with, to making the world a better place, to dealing with the political and social realities of this world in whatever way that is meaningful to you and relevant to you at this time. And as we've talked about, that could be working with just one person. It could be working with a group. It could be your community. It could be the world. Wherever the focus of attention is, you're called to bring your attention, to bring, therefore, your experience and therefore your action, what you get involved with. So the idea of being peace and what that brings to the world is another aspect of this. There's the work that we need to do to learn how to enter into that state of consciousness, to be in that state of consciousness, but being in it just subjectively, so to speak, just inside your own mind, inside your own body, as wonderful as that is different than bringing that peace by being it in such a way that it's bringing it to others. It's bringing it out into the world. I was going to read this later, but I'll read it now. Thich Nhat Hanh goes on to say, in a different context, that love is a mind that brings peace, joy and happiness, that brings peace, joy, and happiness to another person. Love is a mind that brings peace, joy, and happiness to another person. Compassion is a mind that removes the suffering that is present in the other. So these are ways in which the cultivation of this consciousness, in this case, he's talking about love and compassion, actually move out from us, or in some magical way, actually bring about a result for other people. Whether it's bringing them joy and happiness or it's relieving their suffering. I'm not sure exactly how he makes that distinction, but the main point that I'm trying to make is that this cultivation of states of consciousness like peace and love and compassion have an influence, not just on ourselves, but on others. We all have the seeds of love and compassion in our minds, and we can develop these fine and wonderful sources of energy. We can nurture the unconditional love, and that's like that we nurture it. We can nurture the unconditional love that does not expect anything in return, and therefore does not lead to anxiety and sorrow. And this is very, very important, I think, for anyone who takes part in some kind of level of activist work, that to the degree that we can let go of the expectation of the consequence of what we do, we will feel less and create much less anxiety and sorrow, much less suffering. So much of the suffering in the world comes from the expectation that what we do is going to bring about what we want it to bring about. We can still have that intention, but that's different than the expectation, which means you're attached to the outcome. You're attached to whether or not the other person is responsive, for instance, or makes the change that you'd like them to make. Changes their mind or changes their feeling or whatever. So being peace means that somehow we're not only feeling that inside ourselves, but we're bringing that peace in an active way into the world. And being the light for the world. And that's a whole nother thing, because everybody pretty much has at least an idea of what peace is. And of course, we can go have a very deep discussion, a meaningful discussion on what it is. But it's a word that has meaning to people in a basic sense. Light, on the other hand, is another question. And I want to just talk about it a little bit. I read a very interesting way of describing 3 different ways that people talk about light. One is light like the light in your room and the light of this fire, this candle, and even the light of the sun. It's physical light. It's what allows our physical eyes to see physical objects and the world. That's absolutely a beautiful thing, a miraculous thing, a wonderful thing. But it's just one way in which we can talk about light. The other kind of light is the light that tends to be meant when we talk about the age of enlightenment. And that's the, like when somebody has a light bulb go off, above their head in the cartoons, and they get an idea, they get an understanding, they get a mental picture or clarity about something. So we talk about, he saw the light, or she saw the light. Usually in the context of that, like they were Trump supporters and they saw the light, something like that. They or whichever way you want to look at that. Um, a person was believing that, in the old days, they used to believe that the world was flat or that the earth that was the center of the universe. And that's the kind of enlightenment that came about when they had a clearer understanding of the science of astronomy and how that worked. So there's that kind of light, mental understanding and mental clarity. And now the other kind of light takes us beyond the ordinary sense that we have as a consensus reality, and that's spiritual light. And spiritual light is the idea of light in spiritual discussion and spiritual experience is ancient and cross-cultural. It seems to appear in almost every religion, every spiritual teaching, every lineage, that not simply that people get smarter and wake up to new ideas and scientific discovery, but that they experience within themselves a what can only be described visually as light, but not in that physical sense. That it's an existent, energetic transmission from the higher consciousness of spirit. And so people have talked about the radiant body being a goal of spiritual work, the rainbow body, the body of light, the being of light, the notion that you and me and each of us is in fact a being of light, that as a soul, as a spirit, beyond the physical and even mental aspect of our personality, we are a being that can be described because experientially it seems to be light, a kind of inner light, a kind of spiritual light. And it goes not against maybe, but it's a very different notion than the ordinary way of experiencing the world. It involves having an experience that could be called a mystical experience, a transcendent experience, a spiritual experience of directly experiencing this inner light, this spiritual light. And in describing it, an interesting Sufi proverb that I came across is, the one thing that frightens Satan is to see a light in your heart. Now, you may or may not want to believe in Satan or think in terms of Satan, but the idea is that whatever is dark in the sense of what we think of as evil in this world, one thing it says in the Sufi proverb says that frightens that can move that away, is the light in your heart. And by that, again, it's a literal, experiential, even though subjective, experience. And another one is the vision of light accompanying inner illumination is not merely an objective visual image or a symbolic phenomenon. Light is primarily a spiritual manifestation of the divine reality, illuminative and creative. That comes from a great Indian master Sri Aurobindo, considered to be one of the great spiritual teachers out of India, who also was a political activist. He brought his spiritual teachings into the context of the changes and issues that were going on in India, and ended up in prison for a while, where he just meditated for many, many years. Remember, if you were here when I talked about Hildegard of Bingen, the great sister of the Catholic Church back in like the 11th century, I believe. And she said, she had a vision of a sapphire blue human figure permeated and surrounded by brilliant light and flashing fire. So these visions of beings with light all around them, you see that in some paintings and artwork, and that's an experience. I mean, that's a direct experience. And in deep meditation, deep meditation, one can access that, and simply even the thought of that light begins to cultivate that experience. And of course, there are many practices, and actually I'm going to do a little practice with you now of invoking and working with inner light. But many practices in teachings of yoga, teachings of meditation involve not simply the practice of being aware of whatever is arising in consciousness the way we do in mindfulness, but actually attuning to inner light energy, sometimes thought of as light fire energy, like in the Agni Yoga tradition, and utilizing that, like opening to how that light can help us in this world. So that, again, that idea that we can be a light for the world means simply that what we already are, the being of light that we are, manifests through the body, mind that we think of ourselves as, and brings that light out into the world, again, to have some effect, just like being peace can have an effect on others. So there's just 5 of you here. So yeah, let me just open it up for a little bit before I do any kind of meditation experience, and just see if any of you want to comment on any of these ideas and thoughts about peace and light, and how they can be helpful, how the experience of that can be helpful to you, or to bringing this work of making the world a better place a little more accessible for us. And, yeah, Deborah.
So I was just going to say that, so I'm not sure that I'm not really good at being like meditating and that kind of stuff, but I do know one thing is when I get really emotional and I feel like I'm more at the top of the wave as
Uh-huh.
opposed to the other side of the wave. I guess I kind of feel like it's kind of controlling me. I will often light a candle if I can, and because of a pandemic, I usually can. I will sit down and light a candle and try to visualize that light inside of me. And it always calms me down, and I don't feel, I feel better. Uh, not only because the emotion goes down, but also because I don't feel controlled by something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's beautiful, and that works for you. Yeah. So when you do that, when you light that candle, and then you open to that light of that candle coming into you. You might want to, maybe you do this, but you might want to recognize that that candle light that you are seeing, that you're bringing into you, is already in you. That it's the light of your soul, the light of your spirit that is actually being mirrored by that candle. And it's reminding you of the beauty and the healing power that's already there inside you, and that you're opening to in this manifestation of it in the world, this light of candle fire. Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, but I will.
And that is a kind of meditation, what you're doing there. It's a kind of, it's a shift of consciousness, right?
Yes.
It's not the ordinary way of dealing with emotions and thinking about them. It's a shift of consciousness to open to something as an experience, a direct experience of this light that's outside you and inside you, kind of calming the intensity of bringing more peace to the feeling that you're having.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Anybody else have a thought or a question? Yeah, Celeste?
First of all, hi, everybody. I haven't been here in a couple of weeks. I'm so happy to be back. The thing that struck me was when you spoke about the fastest way to get rid of evil. You didn't say the devil. What word did you use, Alan?
When I said the Sufi proverb,
Yes.
Satan.
Satan?
Yeah.
Satan, right.
One thing that frightens Satan is to see a light in your heart.
And that immediately, it's not I don't think it's a metaphor, but anything that's dark, any bad behavior from people, anytime as today, as we go to the grocery store or we go to the bank and we encounter someone that is just not one with, the way to get them to neutralize, if that's a word, is always by kindness and always by showing them kindness. And I find it more and more now. I mean, I don't, in my teaching, that the anxiety levels are so high, which then brings some snippiness, and you counteract it with love or a loving word or a word of encouragement, and it neutralizes it. So, bottom line to everything is that 4-letter word, a little love goes a long way. So that just struck me that because, we've had our discussion many times about who created evil and what is evil and what is it here for, and all kinds of stuff that I still contemplate quite often. So thank you for that. Made me think more.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to add that one way of experientially tapping into that love when it's difficult to do is to find the light in your heart. The light in the heart is always there. Sometimes it's just a teeny little spark, but once you direct your attention to it, it starts to expand. And then the feeling quality of that light in the heart, which is love, starts to be something that you feel. And then, of course, like you say, it has, many effects on the people around us. Yeah, even the sort of, and it has an effect on the devilish aspects of our own self, you could say, the inner demons. And so when our own mind starts getting into a very, very mean-spirited kind of way of thinking about things or people or terrible anger, then you could say that's what's also meant by the Satan idea, that it gets moved away through the light in your heart. Yeah, go ahead, Peter. Welcome. Hi. Don't forget to unmute. Peter, you need to unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, Alan. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Nice to be back here. Wonderful to hear, this review of great teachings and teachers. I wanted to share that every morning I have a routine. I get up pretty early and I drink some tea and I do a Qigong practice to wake up, throwing my hands up above my head, usually around dawn. And I say, as I look out at the light, the dawn, light of dawn, I say, another day, a miracle, thank you. And lately I've been thinking about the sun, the light of the sun, and how we tend to be, if we tend to be distracted by the scientific explanations of nature, and it kind of explains away the miraculousness of the light of the sun. But mainly I'm saying it's, I'm remembering how amazing sunlight is.
Yeah, yeah, oh, really. Yeah, when we do that prayerful meditation where we just like sort of like you're describing, where you raise your hands up and you let your palms face the sun, and then you allow it to come into you and even bring it down into your heart. There's a whole process like that. The light of the sun is truly a miracle. Yeah, and it is the source of all of the life on this planet. All of the energy comes out of the sun.
Yeah. And also how all human beings for a long time until pretty recently did not have the scientific explaining nature away as something that's not alive and miraculous. And so I think this is a lot of how light is so prominent in the spiritual traditions.
Yeah, yeah, and the inner experience of light, like we'll do in a little bit, is yet another dimension of it, another aspect of what we call light. Anybody else? Oh, did you want to say something else, Peter?
I was just going to say, I think what you just said is the more profound meaning of light, but the visible light of the sun is what many more people know about. A lot of people don't have that much conscious experience of the light of higher being.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, it takes being, essentially it comes in what we would call an altered state of consciousness. It's not, in other words, that inner light is not visible, not felt by our ordinary senses, unless we do practices or somehow enter into a state of consciousness where somehow our awareness is open to it. And yet it can be, I think, so to speak, scientifically verified, because thousands and thousands of people throughout the ages have experienced it and talk about it, and from all different kinds of angles. People that have these near-death experiences talk about going into this light. And they don't mean the light of that we talk about, the physical light. Their brain is dead almost, and yet they survive and come back, and they talk about this light. And these were people who didn't have meditation training or anything like that. So it happens sometimes spontaneously, and yet it's very, very often an experience that happens through spiritual practice, and which can include prayer. Yeah, anything else? Anyone else have another thought or experience to share about peace, light, and how how that can relate to this changing of the world, making the world a better place. Okay, so let's see about experiencing peace and light. So let's shift our attention for now from the focus on even ideas about light and anything, thinking about anything, or thinking about what's we're going to do after this webinar is over, or what happened earlier today. Those thoughts tend to come in to the thinking mind, the brain, and yet just let them come in, let them go out. Don't need to grab onto any of them. Right now, we're just going to together do this exploration. So start with just shifting your attention to your breath. And even as you close your eyes, there is a certain amount of light patterns that you might see on your eyelids. And that's, again, a different kind of light. Focus on the breathing and feel, sense, know that you're breathing. Know that breathing is happening and that you are experiencing it by way of being aware of sensations, as your body moves in different places, you feel that. Throughout this experience, whenever you find your mind has gone, you've gone into some kind of thinking mind place or just drifting away from where we are working, just come back, bring your attention back to your breath first. Be aware that we're all doing this at the same time. And that all around the earth, there are other people right now, right at this very same moment, practicing meditation. Many of them also with an intention to be peace, to be light bringers into the world. And somehow by thinking of each other and thinking of this network or web you could imagine around the world of people seeking at this very moment, at the same time, peace and light and love, it amplifies your experience. And I don't think that's just a psychological effect. like, oh, I'm thinking of these other people doing that, so it feels good. It's that you're opening to that interconnectedness there. And you begin to feel that interconnectedness, and that therefore strengthens the experience within yourself. Because there's a mutual exchange, you could say. So now think of the being within that you truly are, the higher self, the soul, the spirit that is not your body, not your thinking, though it's throughout all of that. It's throughout your body and mind, all around your body and mind. And as like a presence. This is the best way that some people have found to enter into it is to just be aware of a presence. But it's a presence of your true nature. And you can have like a little bit of a feeling of that presence, a sense of it, or a knowing of it. And one of the best descriptors for me is that it's the presence of the being of light that you are, the being of light. Clear, without any of the kinds of things that seem to limit us, the fears, the resentments, the hang-ups, the tensions. Pure awareness, pure clarity, completely open to the divine nature of all that is. And that presence comes to us in the way that we experience it as energy. As first, a very, very subtle sense of energy. The experience of that energy for some is a kind of vibration that is like a sound, or is a sound. Not a physical sound again, but that's why it's often talked about as a soundless sound. It's a very mysterious expression, but a vibration. The Om is one way in which people receive this quality of their beingness and of the divine. And the other way is as light. And even though we use that word light, and it seems very real when we experience it to describe it that way, it doesn't have to be visual. It doesn't have to be something that you see. It can be a light that you feel. And so think of the point of light that is a focalizing of the energy of your beingness that's located 6 inches or so above your head. Just direct your attention to that place in space. It's a location. And that's a location that, in terms of your energy anatomy, the true nature of your being as light emanates as like a star, like an inner star. And that light of that star, even if it starts out being just like a little tingle or just a kind of spark, starts to grow as you learn to keep your attention focused with it, even though by focusing your attention, you're not straining or tensing or trying to make something happen. You're just as if, think of it as though you were to gaze at a candle. You don't have to try to make that candle burn or do anything to it. Your gaze can be soft, gentle, just as now your attention can be gentle but focused on the point and radiating star above your head. And just see if you notice some sensory experience as in your body, particularly as that light shines above your head, just like you would if you were out in the sun and you were appreciating and letting the sunlight in. Only now your eyes are closed, you're not looking at the sun, it's nighttime, and yet there is this light that we begin to be able to feel and sense. And then imagine, or I don't really like to use the word imagine, it makes you think you're making it up, but just let this star energy release a flow of light that washes down around and through your body. Don't worry if this doesn't seem like it's happening 100% or it's like earth-shattering. Just allow yourself to be aware of any little sensations of the energy moving through your body and around your body. Even if you're not aware of it as energy, be aware of your body and what you feel in your body. The energy will wash down first through your head, and what are we seeking? Remember, we're in this particular time we're seeking some peace. So where the head is a place where often we have our brow furrowed and eyes tense and straining, and the brain is working, thinking, planning, analyzing, challenging. Just let the light teach the structures of your body about peace. Being a light for the world starts with being light for yourself. Being the being of light that brings peace to your own mind, peace to your own muscles, peace to your own nervous system. And sometimes on the road to peace, we become a little more aware, a little more illuminates the not peace. And that's okay. You feel a little more how unpeaceful things are inside. I'm not saying it is that way for you now, but it could be. So let this light energy bring what it brings to your head and then your neck. And a lot of us, I know myself, you get a lot of not peace in my neck, in the neck area. We need to do some of that Qigong that Peter was talking about, or Tai Chi, or yoga, but also bringing the light of your beingness to bring just that quality of the consciousness of peace to your neck muscles and your throat and all of that. And we can do that. We have access to that. And let this light wash out across your shoulders. Let your shoulders relax. See if you notice any degree to which your shoulders can drop a little bit more. Maybe they were up a little bit, working a little bit more than they need to work. Let that light energy come down your arms, and down into your hands, down into your fingers. Feel your hands and your fingers becoming more alive. If you like, move them a little bit and feel the energy in your hands. So see if you, just right now, check in with yourself. See if you notice that the areas of your head, your shoulders, your arms, your hands feel in some way qualitatively different than the areas that we haven't really focused on yet, which includes all the rest of your body. Maybe for one thing, you're more aware of them. You have more sensitivity there. Maybe they feel more awake, more alive, more tingly. Now let the energy come down a little more quickly. We'll go a little more quickly just because of time. But let the energy come down from your back of your neck down into your thoracic spine, your vertebrae and muscles around your upper back, and then your chest, and your whole chest area, which includes everything within. That's your lungs, your heart, so on. And on down through your solar plexus, including your middle back, your abdomen and lower back. See if you need to adjust your posture at all, to just allow your back to relax and your belly to relax, but yet be upright. And the energy will go down through your very base of your spine, your pelvic area, your legs, all the way down your legs and around your legs, down through your ankles, feet. Feel your feet on the ground, if they are, or wherever they are. Let the bottoms of them open and the energy wash through. So you have this flow of light energy, life energy, energy from the spiritual source within yourself, your soul, your spirit. Energy of the being of light, the light of the being of light that you are. That's all around and all throughout your body, but you're bringing a kind of concentrated flow of it through your body, through all the tissue, the organs, the cells, and so forth. And if you take your hands and you place them on your heart or on your solar plexus, on your body somewhere, you'll feel, or you can feel, some of that light being concentrated wherever your hands are. And if you take your hands and you aim them outward from you, you aim them out into your room, wherever, you could think of the energy and let the energy that's flowing through you go out through your hands, wherever that goes. Through your room, through your home, to the people in your home, to the animals around your home, creatures, plants, and so on. All down into Mother Earth. And in this way, one very practical method of bringing the light into the world, bringing light of spirit into the world, making the world a better place for sure when you do that, as well as bringing yourself into a healthier place when you do that. So I went through that meditation a little bit quickly. I don't know how it felt to you, but you can spend a good deal of time just with that simple practice of lighting the star above your head, bringing the light shower down through your body. And I do have an audio of that. It's about 25 minutes. And if you want that, just email me and I'll be happy to just send it to you. So again, thank you all for coming. I mean that. I really appreciate our being able to do this together. And be well, be well, be in light, be peace, be light. And we'll meet again soon. Blessings.
Thank you. God bless. Good night.
Bless you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, guys.